Thank you, Julianne. Good morning and welcome to the second session of Behind the Curtain. This 5-week series features 5 outstanding theaters in our area. We all appreciate what happens on stage during their productions, but what happens months before in preparation for achieving a successful production? Well, we have with us experts familiar today with the process. They're willing to share their knowledge and experiences. Our program today features Stephanie Lynge, Matthew Dibble, and Bob Robbins, representing the Hippodrome Theatre. Stephanie, artistic director, is an accomplished actor, director, producer, teacher, and coach. She has enjoyed a career of more than 27 years in professional theater and education. Since 2013, she has worked on more than 40 productions at the Hippodrome. Her other acting credits include performances in New York City, on and off Broadway, at Lincoln Center, and the York Theater Workshop. Stephanie holds a Master of Fine Arts in Acting from the University of Florida and is a proud member of Actors Equity Association since 1996. Matthew Dibble was the group sales coordinator and development associate for the Hippodrome. He is a graduate of the University of Florida and has been with the Hippodrome for 6 years. He's proud of the work he has done to enable the artistic growth of the theater and is happy to have the opportunity to look behind the curtain into the creative process that goes into every performance. Bob Robbins is enjoying his 36th season at the Hippodrome. During his tenure there, Bob has provided lighting designs for over 300 main stage productions and held many titles such as lighting designer, sound engineer, live audio mixer, stage manager, pyrotechnician, lightboard operator, and bartender. Today, he is also the facility manager for the 110-year-old building that the Hippodrome calls home. He is an Actors Equity Association stage manager and proudly holds a BFA in theater production from the University of Florida. So, Stephanie, Matthew, and Bob, curtain up.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, John, for that wonderful intro. I just want to give a little overview before we get started. We're going to do a little question and answer after the main presentation. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to wait till then. Or if you want to learn more about something we're talking about in the moment, feel free to just put that in the chat feature and we'll actually go through as we're talking and do a little more detail if anything comes up you're particularly interested in. I'd like to turn it over to Bob and Stephanie now. They are the creative types, so they'll kind of take it from here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for having us today. Bob and I were talking many weeks ago when we arranged this, how much we really enjoy doing these things. And even though this is on Zoom, we're very grateful to have been invited to join you guys today. So Bob and I talked about sharing with you all the process for a show that we think you all will probably remember fairly well, those of you who come over to the Hippodrome, $1 Million Quartet, a favorite of so many of our patrons and subscribers, and to be perfectly honest, us as well. Obviously, over the last year in the pandemic, the process has been very different, but we thought we would tell you guys about what it normally is. And then if you have any questions about what it's been lately or any more detail, again, like Matt said, about what we've been talking about, please jump in, holler, raise your hand, whatever works best for you guys. So without further ado, this is how a play comes to you all on our stage. So it starts about a year in advance. Because we have to pick the plays. So the last few years we have had what we've called a season selection committee. And what that is that is made up of staff and it is made up of company members who have worked at the Hippodrome off and on for many, many, many years. Gosh, Bob, what do we read? Like We read over 150 plays usually for every season. Clearly, we don't do that many.
Broken down into different committees and different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so, March Madness.
Yep. It's kind of like March Madness. Those of you who participate in the March Madness, it's absolutely what it's like. We break down into teams. Every team reads about 20 or 30 scripts. Each script is read by 2 different people. And after they pass forward the ones they think are interesting, I have to read all of those. That's usually about half. Once we meet again and narrow it down again, that's when I start bringing it to our designers, of which, of course, Bob is our lighting designer, as well as our production manager and facilities manager. And I ask them to read the scripts to give me their input from a design and technical perspective. So one of the ways we choose scripts is, I mean, there's a million different elements to this. First is story. Story is very important. What are these stories? Who are these stories being told by? What is going to resonate with our audiences and represent our community? That's the number one thing we look for. Number two thing we look for is, can we do it in a 3/4 thrust? If you guys are familiar with our stage, if you think about it, it's got, you know, audiences on 3 sides. And every once in a while, there's a show that is like, that's gonna be tricky. Bob, you know, there's a few. Bob, can you think of any shows we have said no to? I can think of one.
Well, I can, but I'm not sure about no, but there are shows that, like a perfect example would be like a chorus line. That show would be really hard to do in our space. And the Hippodrome, we did it, but we did it many decades ago downtown at the old Florida Theater, back when it was still kind of a movie theater setup. So there are some shows that are just not meant to be like that, in the thrust or the round.
I know I've personally been pushing for Evil Dead the musical since I got there, but that show requires almost a Gallagher-like fake blood being squirted towards the audience, where you have little plastic sheets to hold up into it. And I've been told no by everyone who has to clean carpet or set that up or any of that, but it's such a fun show, but it's probably not great for a classic building like ours.
So we have to take a lot of those things into account. In addition, we have to take into account other things like, well, if we have a huge set in the first show, we need to have a smaller set in the second show so that we can balance things out. Same with our costumes. We have to figure out how many people are we going to bring in from out of town versus in town, because we have limited housing. So if I have a lot of people I have to bring in for one show, then the previous show or the next show, I can only bring in a few. So when they overlap, I have enough housing. So there's all sorts of logistical little detailing things like that that actually have nothing to do with the art, that help shape and help us do the final choices as we are figuring out which shows we can do. Mostly, it's not we can't do this show, we just can't do these shows back to back. How do we arrange them?
So we belong to Actors Equity, which is the same actor union as Broadway around the country, reciprocal with England, and the overlap mean, you know, we have to house our actors also. We have to provide transportation to bring them in and house them. And so we have a limited amount of housing in town that our sponsors, our producers have provided for us. So that's that overlap. So that's why we can't have 2 large shows back to back, because there's not a lot of downtime between the shows. And the first show will be closing that week, the final weekend, while the next show has already started rehearsal. So there's an overlap of shows that we have to deal with double housing, and sometimes that's just not possible. So it's interesting how that side affects the type of show that we're picking, along with all the other requirements that Stephanie has laid out. It's quite a jigsaw.
So Bob, when you as a designer are looking at that final stack of, say, 15 plays before we're selecting a season out of, what do you look for your feedback to me about what excites you, what are limitations? And of course, usually when we see a limitation, we actually see an opportunity to figure out how to get around it.
For sure. You know, in theater, that's definitely, you know, the word no is not, we hate it. So, you know, as designers, we look at the script, we read through it. You know, it takes a couple times really to read through it. When we're reading a script for to produce it, you know, actually design it, it's minimum of 3 times and then keep reading. First time for enjoyment, second time, start combing through your area of what you can do. And then third time and beyond, really starting to get some concrete ideas, well, even before the rehearsal starts. So really what happens, so we all read it. And just based on our ideas, so we're not in communication with the director. There's no direction or director telling the designers, this is the direction we want to go, because after all, as designers, we're all working to make the director's vision one whole vision with all the designs, costume, scenic, lighting, sound. So when we look at it without any direction, we're just kind of going off on our own mind of what we think it could be, just pulling from the author, what the playwright wrote about the script, and just creating our own mind. So I see it in lighting. The scenic designer was seeing it through their filter of design. But we really look for clues from the author and how we think the director is going to stage it. So any red flags that come up, they become challenges for the staging in the 3/4 thrust. And that's what we love, are those challenges.
We do. So eventually, all of the designers and our technicians, everybody has input about what they think about that final pool of scripts, what they find exciting, what the challenges are they think that we'll, need to invest our time and energy and finances into overcoming. And then from that, with all those other logistical doodads that aren't necessarily artistic, we put together the season that will share the stories, again, that we think will resonate with our community, and that we can do.
And that's the hardest thing for theaters, to figure out what shows to produce for their community. The shows we produce are different type of shows than the Gainesville community, the community playhouse produces, which is different than the across town rep, which is different. So everybody kind of has their own patron niche, kind of, sort of, and what we cater to. And the Hippodrome's long history, has proven that. So we can't just go out and do we don't go out and do $1 million quartets every season. We could, but that's kind of a different MO for us. And that's what kind of made that show so special, is that it was just such a broad, big musical.
Mm-hmm. So once we've announced the season, the next step, and I'll get through these so we can get to the real technical stuff, is we held company auditions. The Hippodrome has a company of actors, and that we always allow them to audition first for the season. And we look to them first if there are any shows that they are right for, characters that they are right for, we give them first opportunity for casting. Then we have season auditions where we cast everyone else. The next thing I do is I go through the season and I start figuring out who is going to direct. I make offers to directors. I try not to direct everything myself, because then everybody only sees my vision, and that gets boring after a while. We want to see different input. We want to see different people's way of seeing things. So I try to make sure that we have a variety of directors, to the extent that we're able to afford it, over the season. And then we look at plays and decide, are all of them going to be designed by our resident designers? Will we bring in a guest designer for a specific show? We were not able to, of course, do our season as we presented it this year. But Bob, why don't you talk about the idea that we had for Silent Sky, and when we're able to bring it back, what we'll do?
Sure. So Silent Sky is a play written, historically accurate, a little fictionized, story about the women team that the designer physicist, see if I get this right, who actually invented how to measure distances based on the light before we traveled to the moon, and before we really were able to explore into the universe and find how far other stars are away. She was the one, of course. It's kind of the same a little bit about that woman, the team from NASA with the space program, except it was earlier. It was earlier. It was metaphysics about travel in space. So of course the women didn't get the recognition. So this is a beautiful play about that. And what we wanted to do was to write a grant because it's a female-oriented story for sure, and there are males in it. And I think the playwright was a male.
No, Lauren Gunderson.
Oh, Lauren Gunderson. So, sorry, right. So we had the idea of bringing in all female designs team. And give it that different viewpoint, and to give a underserved community of designers definitely in the theater a chance at the Hippodrome stage. So COVID cut that short, but we were applying for a grant to do that, and that would have been cool because I was looking for a lighting designer, and it's rare that I don't design the lights for the Hippodrome. So I would love to see somebody else show me that space in a way that I'm not familiar with. That would be great.
So then the next step is, now we have our directors established. We have our designers set. Normally it's we have on staff, but we do have guest designers sometimes. So the next thing we do is we create, and this can be super boring, I know, but it's so important. We create what's called a line calendar. Bob, do you have that available by any chance?
I don't think I do.
Okay. So a line calendar, here, I'm going to multitask with you all. Are we allowed to screen share, John?
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to Google Drive to pull something up. I'll be right back. So, so what a line calendar does, and again, I know it's kind of, whatever, boring, but a line calendar allows us to plan out. We plan out so that we know what's coming. So now I'm going to come back and share my screen. Ta-da. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. So this was our season 2019-2020 production line calendar. This is put together by our amazing, fabulous, fantastic stage manager, Amber Wilkerson. And you can see, for Curious Incident of the Dog of the Nighttime, that opened in September, we had our first preliminary set design due in June. Now this one is particularly early because it's a co-production with UF, this particular production was, but you can see the second show, which went up in October, had a preliminary set design due in August. Sorry, my cat's got something, was making noise. Sorry about that, guys. So we start working months in advance on the design elements to see if we can actually get things in order. What it does is it allows us to start the creative process early enough that we can really play and that we can save, last minute issues for last minute issues. And we've got a great base to go from. So our set design for Curious was due in June. Our initial final costume design was due in July. Final props design and sound design were all due in July. Again, this was for a show that opened in September. And you can see first rehearsal was August. So that is how far out we work. While we are rehearsing this show, if you see, we opened the show. See, press run was there, tech, see all these, oh my gosh, look at all this. So not only do we have first rehearsal, we have a designer run, then they got to hang the light plot. This is when the actors take over on stage. This is when we do a press run. See, those dates are really close together, right? It's like a day. And then 2 days later, the lights have to be hung. And then 2 days after that, the press run is happening. The actors have been on stage for 2 days at this point. Then we have tech, where we add all the lights, the costumes, the sound, all of this stuff. We're gonna go back over all of that detail as well. Then we actually preview. We're previewing on August 28th for this show. The preliminary set designs were due even before we started our runs for the next show. So that's kind of how we multitask to keep things going. Bob, I'm gonna pop out of this so we can go back. Do you wanna talk about that kind of multitasking at all?
Sure. So you know, at the Hippodrome, we're very fortunate is that we have a company of actors also, but we also have a company of designers. And so that's a lot easier to deal with in-town designers and then working remotely, although we're learning how to do that this year, with out-of-town designers. I mean, so by working that far in advance, we really do have to multitask. As resident designers, myself, Amanda, and our costume designer, Clara Jean, who we hired just as COVID was hitting. I mean, like the timing was crazy. And then, so we couldn't hire her. I'm kind of going off tangent here. We couldn't hire her, but we have housing in the contract that we were going to supply the first year of housing for our new designers, so they can transition into and rent or find their own home here because we want to keep them here. So we've been actually providing their housing through this COVID because they're not on payroll, but at least we've been able to help like that. So back to there. So if we have all of our designers in residence, then we can really work months in advance and juggle all these different things going on, all these different shows, plus whatever's happening in the building, which is busy. So as designers, we are used to multitasking. Knock on wood, pre-COVID. I also do a lot of freelancing around the country, along with my home base of the Hippodrome. And my average, really, and no exaggerations, I probably have 4 shows going at once, either in pre-production, preliminary stages, or putting up a show, or in production. It's usually four designs going around in the head at once. And that's kind of normal for designers to have that many shows. You know, there's a lot of shows. Each show has a lot of design needs. So work was really good before COVID.
So, what I'd like to do is now show you guys what it looks like, what the designers start to give us. Again, this is weeks and weeks before we even start rehearsal. So I'm going to screen share again, and
definitely. I also have some stuff from $1 Million. Yeah.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Here. So I'll pop up the couple of things I have, and then Bob, you can take over and show some other stuff. Don't know why I decided I had to sing that. Okay. So this, can everybody see this? Cool. So this, Bob, I'm not even going to talk about this. You talk about this. Tell everybody what this is.
So this is, this looks like the ground plan for $1 Million Quartet.
Yep.
I'm not sure what version this is, but it went through a lot of versions. This is an interesting version. I'm not sure where I'm at here. So that's the back wall here.
Backstage, yeah.
Oh, that's the backstage. So, this is an early one. I've got some later ones too in color.
Right.
That I'll show you, the scene designers pack. So this is an early version of what the scene designer is going to give to the director. So what happens first, guys, with the design in the design world? So I think we should now move into $1 Million Quartet. So let's use our $1 Million Quartet show as our base example for these explanations. Mm-hmm. So once all that early stuff, preliminary stuff is gone out, I've hired designers. I do all the hiring for all the production staff. We have our designers. The first people that meet are the scenic designer and the director. Without the physical world, we're lost. So we have to have the physical world of the play invented, created first. And that is really only between the scenic designer and the director. As a scenic designer, they will have visions of what lighting could look like on it and hopefully what costumes will look like on it. But it's the scenic designer's job to bring all that information to talk with the director. The director is going to talk about what they need the space to do for their blocking, how many levels are there. I need a door over here. I need a sofa. I need a telephone. I need a light switch. I need a working refrigerator. I need a pool that they can jump in. Whatever it is, that comes from the director and the script and those preliminary readings that the designer has done. And then that beautiful collaborative process starts going on. So they meet and they bounce ideas back and forth. There you go. They bounce ideas back and forth. And then the scene designer will start coming with some hand sketching, just some sketching on drawings, on napkins. And then it progresses to more formal drawings. And towards the end, the set designer then has to give a fairly photorealistic view of what the designs are based on the collaborative process that usually takes a few weeks, back and forth meetings just between the two of them. Once that has been established, once that world has been established, the rest of the designers then can take over. And it's usually then the costume designer that takes over. Mm-hmm. I've got a screen share here.
Great. I will stop sharing, Bob, and so you can get in there.
That's great. So I'm going to show you guys. She was showing it to you too, but let's see if I can.
Oh, Shirley, did you have a question, or were you just saying hey?
What'd you say, Shirley?
I was just saying hey to Stephanie.
Oh, hey, Shirley.
So this is part of that pack. So this is a top view. We call this a ground plan. So this is a bird's eye view that the scenic designer uses and that we all use to see from a bird's eye view what it looks like. Now, this is what's called a floor painting elevation. So this is based for the scene designer designed the paint on the floor, painted it digitally, and then presents it. So this is what it's going to look like. These colors are what it's going to look like. This is the set, the done deal. So we use this as our bird's eye view. Let me go back to another one. So this is kind of interesting. It gets a little. So we can see that. So this is, once again, the scenic designer, this is the stage, if I recall, this is the stage right entrance unit. Yes. So this is just a scenic unit looking from above. This is the front door right here. And they also give all the dimensions. So what happens is 10 inches on this platform over here. Here's the front door. Here's the sun sign, and I'll show that to you. Here's the opening, here's the entrance. So they walk around, the actors would walk around and they entered right here. You know, being in our small space, architecturally, sometimes things aren't correct, but we have to squeeze things in. So this is how detailed the scenic designer has to get. These are actually detailed enough to take to the shop, to go to the scene shop to be able to start building the set. And that's really what it takes from the scene designer. They have so many different elevations. I'm just sorry, looking through all my, here's another one. So here's another elevation of here's the recording studio here. And here was that other unit we had just seen, stage right. So once again, all the dimension lines, all the colors. Here's a human scale. So this, we usually use about a 6-foot human scale for their drawing. So this is all to scale. Little recording sign here, the tape deck back here. All these different dimensions are something that our technical director, Warren, will take to the shop, make his drawings, and be able to talk to the carpenters to be able to draw. So that's how detailed it has to be from the scene designer. I can show there's reams and reams of these. Some of them are really fun. So what he did, our designer, this is a great one. And actually this one is still, I'm going to show, this one is still hanging in the shop. So that was the Sun Studio. The set designer, scenic designer, he drew that by hand or cut and pasted, whatever he did. And then our scenic artist, Ken, he painted that by hand. So that was a beautiful sign. I was really happy the way that turned out. The team really did a good job with that. Mm-hmm. It's now hanging in the shop as a souvenir. So
I have queued up some costume sketches, which would be the next piece.
Yep.
In the design. So do you have that, Bob, or you want me to pull mine up?
I don't have the costume. I could not find the costume.
All right. See, teamwork. If I can get the technology to go with me. All right. So this is what our costume designer, Stephanie Parks, created for $1 Million Quartet. So these are sketches of each of the characters. I am sure we all remember them very well. But these were her original ideas. And for those of you, we'll show some pictures from the show. It's remarkably close to what we actually ended up doing. It's just beautiful. So she sketches these ideas, brings them to the director, says, these are my ideas. They go back and forth. She also then begins to pull pictures of actual costume pieces we have, things she can purchase, and how it will all go together. You can see on the side over here that these are comments from our costume designer and the director asking questions. Can Carl's shirt be a slightly different color or whatever it is? This is how we go back and forth, especially when we're not in the same space or we're working remotely like we are now. So you see how much detail work is in this. We had that jacket downstairs. I believe we actually had that belt buckle for Johnny Cash, but we definitely had to buy the boots. Jerry Lee Lewis, everybody, yeah. Again, some of the things we had, some of the things we bought, we had to make sure that the actors were comfortable and they were on their feet dancing and running around. You had to make sure their shoes were perfect. Elvis had to go up on his toes in his shoes. We went through several different pairs of shoes, finding the right ones for the look and to make sure his feet were supported so he could do that 7 shows a week, 8 shows a week. All right, I'm coming back.
What was interesting about this process is, we're telling you how the normal process is, and this $1 Million Quartet's not the normal process. The process was correct all the way up through the costumes. And then things started changing because here's the deal with $1 Million Quartet. $1 Million Quartet is a show that there's not a lot of different varieties on how to do this show. Like a chorus line, there's one way to do that show, and that's it. But $1 Million Quartet, the set has to be in that studio. It has to have a piano. Costumes have to be historically accurate. You can't go too crazy off of this. So what happens with this show is it's been done a few times already, and it's a small cast. What we did is we decided to hire a director, that's done the show, and that director has been in the show and directed the show multiple times, and he was able to pull a cast that has done the show. Because if you're teaching a new Jerry Lee Lewis that music, or that Elvis that music during a 3-week rehearsal period, we only have 3 weeks from the day the actors get on campus to opening night. 3 weeks is it. 6 days a week. That's it. So what we did is we took a shortcut and we hired that director. He said, this is who I want to cast. We hired his cast and they were dynamite. And we only had a 2-week rehearsal period for this show, which is even crazier to put that upon ourselves. But we were confident with that. So going back to the costumes, there wasn't a lot of wiggle room. The director said, I want this. I know this works. I know this works. I know this works. And after a while, the designers have to go, well, maybe that's not what I wanted, but you have to figure that common place of collaboration to be able to make the show successful. Not everybody has to be happy, but the show has to be successful to be able to do that. And that's usually the director's vision. It's got to be 95% there. So, but that's what made this show really different. So what happened is we were able to borrow some things. We were able to rent some costumes, and that's what we don't usually do at the Hippodrome. We usually build our own from scratch, but it was so much easier to do that. The other thing about this show, what made it special, sorry, I'm going on, is that it's a very expensive show to produce. The royalties were really, really expensive, like so expensive that the Hippodrome's been wanting to do it for years that we just couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. The new administration took the chance, rolled the dice. We begged, borrowed, and stealed for every piece of costume, for every piece of musical instrument. The stand-up bass is a $4,000 bass, so I mean that's twice our budget for our scenic, usually for the set. Usually. So
and that was a specialized bass that he had to be able to stand on during the performance. So that it wasn't even just a regular stand-up bass. That had to be reinforced.
Yeah. Yep. And the piano we stood up and, danced upon. So there's a lot of things. The shoes, how many pairs of shoes did we go through? The jackets. So we ended up Florida rep down in Fort Myers did the show, and they're good friends of ours, and they're an equity theater. So we were able to borrow a lot of equipment from them, and that really saved us a lot of time and money. But then as designers, then we're charged, Stephanie said, okay, we're gonna do the show, but you gotta do it for a third of the cost. So then we were charged with not only designing the show, but then finding sources to beg, borrow, and steal of the items that we needed to fit our production. So it was all hands on deck. I mean, it was crazy. They're scouring, but that theater down in Fort Myers really helped us out.
Yeah, there's actually a great story behind that, in the spirit of collaboration between theaters of, you know, how we have that great relationship with Florida Rep. If you'd like to go into that, Stephanie.
Sure. Several years even earlier, one of our hurricanes. Do you remember which one, Bob?
I want to say it was the 2017, 2016 one, somewhere in there.
Well, one of the hurricanes was coming through, and Fort Myers was in the path, and they were in the middle of rehearsals, and they called up, and Lauren and Bob were like, yes, come, we'll house you. You guys can rehearse in our space. So we gave them a safe space inland so they could continue preparing and go back and open their show on time. And that's just one of the things we often reach out and help each other. During this entire year of pandemic, I have been in meetings with all of the professional theaters in Florida at least once a month, seeing what we can do for each other, what has been working for each other, what kind of information can we share, how can we support each other. One of the last shows we were doing here was a co-production with Freefall over in St. Pete, which was our first co-production with that particular professional theater. So as always, it takes a village in our theater to create a production to share with the village that is our patrons, our community. And there is the village of professional theaters in Florida as well. And all together, we are able to do a lot more and support each other. And we were eternally grateful for Florida Rep's support for us for $1 Million Quartet. It's what allowed us to take that next step forward with it and really bring you guys the best possible production we could.
Yep. Yeah. So that was an interesting, different kind of show. But you know, flexibility is the first name of designers for theater, and you have to be flexible and be able to change on a moment's notice, and what we call sometimes winging it, just wing it.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Eat first.
I was just running and grabbing as quickly as I could, which is not quickly enough. Bob, do you have any pictures from the show that you could put up?
Yeah, here we go.
All right. Just so we can kind of see all the sketches.
Well, here's a final product.
There it is.
There it is. So, you know, this is a pretty snazzy little shot here. But we can see it's a little dark, but you can see the floor here. So it looks just like the renderings with the piano there. So you guys, this piano here, we got up and danced. This is actually an electric piano. It's just a keyboard. Mm-hmm. And we built the shell around it. Actually, this shell is from Fort Myers.
That is theirs. Mm-hmm.
And in their show, that piano spun. So this thing actually has hydraulic little shocks in it that lift it off the ground. It's kind of pretty cool. But we didn't do that, and our director did not want that to happen. So let me go back. Yep.
So that's from sketches to final look. It's and that particular piece we started working on March, so maybe about 4 or 5 months before. I believe we started working on $1 Million Quartet 4 or 5 months before it opened. So, got another one for us, Bob?
Yeah, there's plenty. Yeah. So this looks, this familiar. This kind of looks like what it looks like, right? Here's the there's a floating thing over here, but this is still, you can see the director was talking about, can we add, let's see. I can't get that in there. Oh, can you guys see all this?
Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, good. So I got it. So here we go. So this is the Google Drive that the scenic designer shared with us. So you can see all the different types of renderings, all the different kind of drawings that the set designer and the director had to talk through. So some of these are final products, like this. This is great without the back view. This is part of the ground plan. We were just worried about how the upstage platforming was going to be. This is a detail of the wall, and each one of these little green things had lights behind it. There you go. I mean, it gets detailed for sure. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
I was gonna. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, and for anyone who wasn't able to see $1 Million Quartet, that one's a very unique show setting wise because it's actually a transformational stage. All those little pieces have to be pushed back and moved back and forth so we can bring in the studio, get rid of the studio and bring in the stage for the final number. So everything you see there is totally modular, and it's one of the things I'm proudest of our theater is our shop is always able to produce amazing work. And if you ever have a chance to see a building tour, you can actually see where all that is done, and maybe even meet Warren, our shop manager.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our technical director is amazing. He does amazing stuff back there. We're actually kind of at the question and answer part of today. So does anybody have any questions? Unless John has a specific structure, we're happy to do raised hands or microphones off or in the chat room.
I see Shirley has raised her hand if she wants to start us off.
I have a question too.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like perfectionism and being flexible at the same time. Can we send you guys to Washington, please?
Oh.
I wanted to say, I was part of the group that loved the observerships. Can you work out an observership on Zoom for us, please?
I know. We were trying to figure out how to do that. But we're getting close, guys. We're getting very close to being able to at least have some performances, even if not full productions of plays, going live again. That will also be streaming, so everyone can attend wherever they are in their comfort level. We're getting close, guys. We're just a few more months away. We'll be making announcements soon. But as we all know, it has been all about making a decision, going a direction, and pivoting to another one for a year. Yeah. So we're a little dizzy at this point.
Yeah.
Have you outlined this whole year, but have not done anything? And how many pairs of glasses are you wearing, Stephanie?
That's right. I ran inside. I was helping my husband this morning. I forgot. So let's see. I could do
the whole year's planning, even though you didn't have any productions, or are you working on next year?
We've been having productions. We've been doing productions since July, but they've been all online. And so we have actually been extremely busy. And Bob can attest to this. We have been able to keep 12 people only on staff, and no one is full-time. We are all working part-time. So we have been creating online productions within the guidelines of the union, Actors Equity Association, since July. Some of you have seen them, some of you have not, because it's been the only way we've been able to do it. And we just couldn't close our doors and disappear. It's not who we are. We are storytellers, and we wanted to get those stories out there in whatever way we could for our patrons and our community to enjoy and be able to be a part of in whatever way they could. So
we're theater people trying to make videos.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's like, we know that that's not our expertise. You know, there are people that make movies for a living, and it's not us, but we're putting content that I think, you know, it's the content's fine. What's amazing about what Stephanie said is that there are actually people still on salary at the Hippodrome. How many theaters are completely shut down? Unlike big time theaters, you know, big regional theaters in this country, they're shut down except for like an administrator or something like that. So we've been very fortunate to be able to have this.
And I see Peter, it looks like, has his hand up, and then Jeannie will have your question next.
I just wanted to say that you have both an advantage and a disadvantage in that your space is pretty small, but it's very intimate. When you're borrowing from other theaters and dealing with other theaters like this, what's the relationship of your size and shape compared to other theaters that you deal with back and or trade with back and forth and so on?
Well, 99.9% of them are going to be larger. The other theaters are larger, but it depends what we're borrowing. If we're borrowing costumes, the costumes are, you know, the actor's body. It'll be taken in or taken out. A special telephone or a special piano. So we don't usually borrow scenic elements. Usually the scenic elements, the set pieces are ours. We design, we build. But there are a lot of things that are universal. Shoes are not universal. But because they're, you know, for the actor. So props, hand props are universal. Costume pieces can be universal. Costumes can be universal to a point. So that's kind of the only kind of things that we borrow. I remember I ran down to Ocala Civic Theater to get this old time phone for whatever thing we did.
This Wonderful Life, I think.
Yeah, it was just, so that was fun. So that's the kind of things we can borrow.
And
well,
one thing
I noticed in what you guys do that you can't cheat. You know, you're the theater and the round, so that you have to have your costumes all the way around. You can't cheat in any way, which not all theaters get, you know, have that limitation.
That's true. And good point of that is that $1 Million Quartet, we tried to borrow, they told us down there we can borrow anything we want. I went down there the last night of the show and they were striking the show. I want that, I want that, I want that. And we brought a truck. But some of the things like their records that were on the wall really didn't say anything. They were scribbled because they're in proscenium theater. So their nearest audience member was 60 feet away. Well, our records had to say, you know, the real deal. So our scenic artist hand painted each of those 50 albums gold records that were up on the wall by hand, or put a label, you know, got cut and paste the label, print the label, and then put the label on it. So you are absolutely correct. And that really holds true with architecture, like stairs and railings and steps and banisters. They got to be right on, because you guys are going to see it if they're not.
And when we did our co-production with Freefall Theater, they're in a real black box situation where they can create their space. So they put it in a 3/4 thrust for those two shows because we can't change our space. So they were able to kind of match us, and the spaces were pretty close. Theirs was a little shorter and ours was a little wider, but we made it work.
It's our space that, you know, I mean, the personnel, but it's really our space, the relationship of the actors to the audience. That's really what makes that space special.
But it is a nice space to watch you guys in.
Mm-hmm. We can't wait to be back in it.
Yeah. Almost every seat has a great view, and I like seeing shows multiple times, because if you're on the right side, sometimes you'll see things you completely miss on the left side and vice versa. So you have multiple vantage points to see new things every time you see the show. It's a really cool way to enjoy theater.
You know, and as far as back to the design work, especially for, like you were saying, Peter, you know, the scenic designer, lighting designer, I design my lights at the Hippodrome radically different than I do when I freelance in the proscenium theater. It's a whole different ball game. It's much harder in thrust and round, and it takes many more lighting instruments just to provide general illumination, because there's people from all sides instead of just one side. So as designers, you know, but that's what we do. That's what we do for a living. So.
And then Jeannie, did you have a question for us as well? Oh, and then we'll have Julianne next.
I have a question too, but I can't think somehow at the show. Margaret Boonstra.
Oh, hi, Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Hey.
Hold on, we'll put you after Julie.
Yeah,
yes, you will be in the queue.
Is it my turn, Jeannie?
You're up, Jeannie.
Okay. I'm from Miami, and I used to go to the Ring Theater a lot, and I know you know what that is, but for people that don't, it's the theater on the University of Miami campus in Coral Gables. But what I used to love there is in the summer, and I don't know if they still have it because I moved, excuse me, I moved to Gainesville in 2007, but in the summer, they would have what's called summer shorts, which maybe you've heard of. And it's, they'd have summer A and summer B, and it was all one act plays. And so it would be maybe 5 to 7 plays, depending on how long each little play was. And outside, they would always hang clotheslines of like Bermudas and shorts. So it made it cute when you were walking up. But that was so enjoyable. I love those because they're short. I mean, it might be 10 minutes, it might be 15 minutes for one. And then, of course, another one. And they really didn't have scenery. you know, they might have a prop if they needed a bike or something like that. But I always thought it would be a perfect thing for the Hippodrome. Well, I mean, you could call it winter shorts. I don't know if you can exactly copy it, but it was so enjoyable because most of them were humorous, but some were drama, you know, dramatic. So well, anyway, something to think about.
That we don't have that title, and we don't do it at the same time every year. But we had a 24-hour play festival a couple of years ago, and just this last fall, of course, remotely, we had what we hope is the first of an annual New Works Festival that spanned over 2 days. And we did 3 or 4 plays each day, and it was that same idea. So that is definitely something that we have done in the past, and we're hoping to make more of an annual experience. And I will be sure to let you know the next time we do it.
Okay, I would love it because I really like that. Like I said, the summer shorts, because it was, I mean, if you added it all together, it might be almost as long as a regular play, but it was just a series of short ones.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and trademark the name Hip Clips now for whenever we get back to that.
There you go.
You know, because of our professional affiliation with Actors Equity, you know, we're bound by their rules. So we can't just go and produce a show that's not equity or, you know, equity members' costs. So there are certain areas that we can do that. Like Stephanie was saying, like programming that's non-main stage. Like the Playwright Festival or things like that. That's where we can do it. If we ever get our education department up huge again, like it used to be, which I don't think that's, you know, and we have a lot of interns or we have a lot of young people in the building at all times, then we can also do that. But Stephanie has to be very creative in how we package those non-union things. So it's part of that balancing act.
Did Actors Equity give way to the COVID crisis at all to say you can, you know, fudge a little bit for this one thing at all?
No. Actors Equity Association, their main job is to keep actors safe. And so they have taken a very hard line throughout this pandemic of not allowing actors to perform either with each other or in front of an audience. In fact, there's a town hall on April 8th where the actors are going to be asking some questions about why we're not moving forward. I completely understand the union's position. It has, of course, made my job as a producer that much more difficult. And I have had to be even more creative, like Bob says, in finding nooks and crannies that we can produce content for our community during this time. Having said that, I completely and totally understand, and as an actor, I appreciate their concerns. It is just for everyone else, like everyone else has been going through, they're trying to find that balance between living or working and safety. And while I may disagree with them on certain elements, I certainly cannot fault the intentions. So the answer is I'm not allowed to perform, have actors in the theater and audience in the theater at this time if I'm doing something under Actors Equity Association purveyance.
But what we have done, because of Stephanie's absolutely dogged determination, is we have gotten Equity to approve us filming The Revolutionist on stage with actors on stage at the same time. So everybody, and then the crew masked, and we all have to go into a bubble and things like that before that. But that has come, Stephanie's pushed them in, you know, but with that, we've had to lay out substantial capital funding for air conditioning improvements and ventilation improvements and sterilization improvements and equipment, electrostatic sprayers, chemicals, and things like that have been pretty substantial, especially during a time of COVID where there's no income coming in at all. It's just going out the door. There's really nothing coming in. So we have worked really hard at that. The building is as clean as it's ever been. It's sanitized. I mean, the air conditioning is sanitized. So we were prepared to do that. And then COVID threw us another curveball, but that should be coming up soon. So Equity has, but we're only allowed to have them in the building for like 2 days at like 6 hours a day. So they got to have their own spacing and water stations. So we're trying.
I think we have a question from Julie in the Oak Room.
Yes, I have a guest here at our microphone.
Hi, this is Ann Robbins.
Hey, Ann.
Hi, Ann. Hey. As you know, most of the people who live in Oakhammock are well beyond or senior citizens, vintage folks call us. And as a result, we have some vintage clothing. And for instance, I've got a black long cape with a fox fur that I'll probably never ever wear. There are high heel shoes that I could never walk in and stay stable. And I wondered if there's a facility for storage, or if there is a possibility that you could use some of these things. And if so, how do we go about getting them to you?
Could you hear that question okay, or would you like me to restate it?
We got it.
I got it. Okay. Yes, if it's you know, not to be snotty, if it's good quality things, we would love to have them. But you know, it's got to be good quality. But I'd be more than willing to come grab everything, and we'll go through it, and we'll grab what we feel that we can use and put in storage, and we would really appreciate it. That would be wonderful.
Okay. Wonderful.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, and we're.
I think.
And John and Julie, I think we have 2 more questions. Are we okay on time? Could we go a little bit over to make sure those are answered?
A few minutes would be fine.
Okay.
It was also after Julie.
I do have one more here. Go ahead from the Oak Room.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Don McLaughlin at Oakhammock, and I have a question for Stephanie, please. You know, the Hippodrome is not only a cultural treasure for our community, but it's also a great treasure for the theater and dance in the U.S. So would you please tell us about the collaboration you have with U.S. theater and dance?
Did you hear that question?
I'm going to need that one repeated. Sorry.
To discuss the collaboration between the Hippodrome and the UF Theater and Dance.
Great question. Yes, I would love to. So several years ago, a program, a co-production program was restarted, and connection was restarted between UF and the Hippodrome. And what we do is we co-produce one show every season with UF. And what that allows us to do, besides just strengthening that relationship, is that allows us to choose shows that are bigger than we might normally do. It allows us to use some of the talent on the design or director side from UF. We use a mixture of our designers and their designers, sometimes our directors, sometimes their directors. And then we guarantee that we're going to use a minimum number of their students in that particular show. And then their students audition and they have to earn the roles. So their students, we get a fantastic experience with these brand new talents that are up and coming. They get an experience in a professional theater setting, which is different than academia. In academia, you get to rehearse at night and it takes a long time. And in professional theater, we're like, bing, bang, boom, you're on, go. So it's a wonderful experience for them to have. They get what are called EMC points, which I will not go into the details, but that helps them on their way to becoming union members as actors. And the energy and the creative churn that we get to create between these two institutions has been amazing. Last year with the pandemic, I reached out to UF and said, I'm not willing to let this connection go. Would you be willing to do the New Works Festival as our production? Because I can't really do anything else, and that I can do on Zoom. And they said, oh, heck yeah. So that was our co-production with UF, even during a pandemic. And I can't announce the next season's one yet, but we have it, and we're very excited about it.
Let's get Margaret Boonstra's question on here.
Yep.
Thank you, John.
And then we'll have Roxanne next. We see you down there. You'll be right after Margaret.
I have a comment and a question. I love the musicals, but I am a great fan of the dramas also. I think in the past of shows like Elephant Man and Equus and some of the great performances that you gave at the Hippodrome. So I hope you don't forget about those of us who love the real serious stuff. But then going on to the musicals, I loved $1 Million Quartet. And I wondered, in view of all that you put into it, did the number of people coming to the show and the gate that you took from those people met your expectations and hopes?
Yes, it did. It was a great seller. Right. So we were. It was a definite. It beat our expectations, and have no fear. We will not forget the dramas. Every season we try to have a nice mixture of dramas and comedies and music, because I, like you, like all of it. So.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hey, Roxanne.
Yes, I'm very dependent on Telecoil. Is Hippodrome looped for the Telecoil?
Bob, you know that system?
Yeah, I do. Am I on? Yeah, I do believe so. We have a new, modern, brand new hearing system. It's supposed to be inclusive of everything. It can all, yes, it should be. We actually have a loop and earbuds if it doesn't work with your hearing system. So you can always grab one from the house manager. If it doesn't work within your own in-ear, there's a loop and an earbud. So we have lots of different possibilities to try to cover everybody.
Margaret, what's the name of your system again? Or not Margaret,
Roxanne.
I'm sorry, Roxanne, I'm sorry.
Poor Margaret doesn't know anything about technology.
Sorry, Margaret.
Julianne probably knows.
I think they call it Telecoil.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
We'll double check and we'll let you know.
I believe that's the system we have. That's the system we have near the house manager's desk. We have a sign for that shows you how to set it to that.
And that's in the ear, right? That should be in the ear?
Yes.
Yeah, it should work.
Yeah, you should set it to the T setting and it should pick up automatically.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to come. It has to come in through my cochlear implants. I can't use earbuds.
Right.
So we'll take a look at the system because I can't remember. It's been a year since we used it, and we'll double check on that and let you know.
And I can share that information. Yep.
Thank you.
I'll take a stab at the last question before we dismiss. If I remember correctly, for $1 Million Quartet, one of the actors was injured, right, during the course of the production, the run, and talk about flexibility. Where did you go to get a sub? Was it? We didn't notice a bump at all.
Oh gosh, yes, we were in a state of panic for several days. I think it was really, but so Brady was injured through no fault of his own. He was on a moped and a car hit him. Fortunately, he recovered very quickly, but we had to end up canceling that day's performance. It was a Sunday. Bob and I were at the building, I don't know, starting at 7 a.m. that morning, something like that, making sure that Brady was okay and with the doctors. We immediately contacted the director, woke him up, and said, we need a replacement. And because, like Bob was saying, this is a show that has such specific skill sets. Not only do you need an amazing actor and an amazing singer, you need one who can play the heck out of that piano. Yeah. It's not something I can just go tap on somebody's shoulder and go, hey, you want to do a show? That's not going to happen. So we reached out through our director's contacts and got a hold of a gentleman who had auditioned for us previously for the role. We had his audition tape. We watched it. We said, that'll work. I contacted him. He contacted his agent. I negotiated. And by 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, that same day, we had hired him.
And he was on a plane from California.
By 4 o'clock, we had a plane ticket, and on Monday morning, he was flying out and got to us Monday afternoon. There was they decided to get together and rehearse on their own because we weren't allowed to Monday night. On Tuesday, we fit him for a costume. We put him on the stage. We walked him through the staging. They ran the numbers, and Tuesday he went on.
And he hit his light. He hit his light every time.
He was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Within 24 hours of the accident, he had touchdown in Gainesville, and it was a major miracle.
Yeah, but that's the point of that. That's what makes that show. And there are a couple of shows, those kind of jukebox musicals that are done a lot. There are people that are familiar with those shows, and they don't change radically between theater to theater. The set might change a little bit, but luckily that's where that situation really helped us.
And he was terrific.
He was.
Yeah,
He really
both of our Jerrys, I think, would be great people to have back. I'm not in charge of casting, but that's just my opinion.
Usually that casting is so intimate between a director and an actor. It's a one-on-one, and how the director feels that everybody can match. But with that show, it was kind of a plug and play, as we say.
Yeah, and just from the personal side, that was just a great cast of people. All 6 of them were fantastic human beings to just be around outside of the theater world. All 7, I should say, because we had 2 Jerrys.
Well, we certainly have had a great opportunity to learn a lot about the nuts and bolts of the preparation of all kinds of presentations in the theaters. And so we want to thank all of you. It's been an outstanding presentation. We hope that you have enjoyed our questions too. I'm so impressed with the active question and answer period. Next week, all you listeners and the viewers, come back again, because we'll have a representative, the artistic director from the Ocala Civic Theater, Katrina Plouffe, and she'll be here to have that presentation representing Ocala Civic Theater. And thanks again, Hippodrome. You were a hit.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I'm going to put my email in the chat. So thank you so much.
Great. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.